oh boy, July was full of fun. It was full of fun, and we're going to talk about it. Let's go. So we are back for another episode of Wrapped. As I said earlier, we are taking on July. I have my man, Aaron. My name is K Styles. And we are, like, with so many things. It's going to be a heavy political conversation, clearly, because that took up a majority of the news. So we're going to jump into it. But first, how are you doing?
Good. You know, just dealing with a little bit of a fat head today. But other than that, I'm all right. I'm chilling, man.
Do you want to give any more description about this fat head conversation? Because someone's going to take it out of context.
Listen, I don't typically eat fast food, but last night I just couldn't sleep. So I decided, you know what? I went to bed hungry, which led to me not being able to sleep. I probably got like an hour and some change. Woke up, couldn't sleep for 2 hours. So I was like, all right, I got to get something to eat. It's 2 a.m. Everything in the house is frozen. So I went out, got Taco Bell, ate that. It was, not the best food you could be eating, but whatever. It sufficed. And then this morning, I feel like I woke up with a little bit of a bloated head. So, that's kind of where I am right now. I'm just dealing with a fat head syndrome at the moment. Hopefully I can cure that. Drinking my water.
I don't really understand, but I support your decision and thoughts, I guess.
It's full of sodium and all kinds of other crap, and I don't really do that. I try not to. It's very rare that I pick up fast food. So yeah, I'm just dealing with a little bit of a fat head today. So, hopefully I'm able to get through this episode without like my fat head oozing or anything like that. But enough about
moving along.
Mr. K Styles. How are you doing on this warm, muggy summer day?
You know what? Summer has always been my best time of year, but this summer I realized that the sun is trying to bake me, and I don't necessarily. I don't know if I want. I might reconsider. Fall is looking real nice right now. I'm just saying.
Who are you?
You get a little bit of both, but other than that, can't complain.
Good.
Well, we're gonna start off with a story that happened that affected pretty much everyone in the tech industry, but some more than others. And we're talking about the CrowdStrike outage. Which I think is wild, because who thought that this would have been a thing that happened when people got up that morning? And it actually felt like it was in the middle of all the political stuff. But since we're going to get so deep into the politics later on, I figured let's talk about this first. I feel like, not to get too much into your direct past, but you had to deal with it a lot. So, let's hear your thoughts and how you felt about it, I guess.
I mean, I liked it. To be quite honest,
you liked the outage?
I did. Yeah, absolutely. Outages equal coin for me. So when outages happen, unfortunately, I don't get any sleep, because when this happened, I was called at 2 a.m. and I was asked to try signing into some of our applications to see if I was affected, because everyone else that was working on the overnight team, they were all affected, to the point where they couldn't even use their machines, because we're a Microsoft house. So yeah, they couldn't even sign into their machines. I could fortunately sign in, but a couple of applications were not accessible. So it was just me doing part of my job, allowing people to stream my desktop in order to get parts of their job done, because during the middle of the night, people are performing maintenances. Outright maintenance activity was shut down during this outage, so I had to kind of jump in to help out with that maintenance and just things of that nature. But yeah, all in all, I liked it, because like I said, outages equals dollars for me. The more calamity, the more coin.
So you call Aaron when your life is going to shit.
Yeah.
Technically, not your personal life.
Yeah. Don't call me about that personal stuff.
To me, it was just real wild. Primarily because we almost, like at my company, I handle IT at my company, and we were evaluating CrowdStrike at one point. And the funny thing is, the thing that we were using, that we ended up with, was as a result of something that we were using that we no longer use, that was incompatible, which is the only reason, because on paper it was great. It was a great thing. And honestly, we're gonna have more issues like this, right? Like we tend to forget. Like I remember the time when we had something happened where it brought down the DNS for the whole like East Coast,
I remember.
and we literally couldn't resolve any websites. So
Yeah.
these things are gonna happen the more that we become reliant, and not become, we are super reliant on technology and computers, like compared to 80 years ago. So we're gonna have more of these. Hopefully, they're just not as bad. I mean, the people not being able to fly, it's like grounding the airline. Like that is a scary thought, but it also should, if you watch any kind of apocalyptic shows, it's like we should be fully aware of like this is a potential, and hopefully we are able to make sure that it's not used in a way that's malicious. Because it seems like this was an error, but like if someone could use this maliciously, we're in for a hard time.
And I think it also highlights one of the issues that we're dealing with right now, which is a lot of jobs being replaced by artificial intelligence. And in a time like this where artificial intelligence, obviously it's software. So if software is down, artificial intelligence is down. You need that human talent to come in and pick up the slack. So I think that's a nice little wake-up call, too, to the rest of the world as to how important actual human talent that is able to react to things dynamically, how important that is.
The one argument or rebuttal for that is, do you feel like we would have this problem if the
If it was
computers read
handled
everything?
this is true because this was a
So-
matter of human error. So
So
Yeah.
that's where it's like one of those. It's a like, what do they say? You're cursed if you do, cursed if you don't, and however that statement goes. Because someone would argue we wouldn't have had this problem to resolve if it was not human intervention. So
that is true. But I guess when it's all said and done, it's like don't put all of your eggs in one basket.
in one basket. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. Well, moving along from that, it's ironic because this is not political, but it is slightly political because apparently Trump has dubbed himself the Bitcoin president and has released the Trump Bitcoin ones, and apparently they're going like hotcakes.
Like really hotcakes. I if I'm not mistaken, these things were released at $250 a pair, and they sold out immediately. And I heard that the resale market has them upwards of like over $2,500 a pair.
You know what's wild about that though? They're ugly.
They are, but when it comes to rare collectibles, no one's looking at its beauty. People are looking at its value.
I got you.
It's
No,
a
that makes
fact. I
sense.
mean, listen, one of the things that I became aware of during the pandemic, apparently watch reselling is such a lucrative business. There are people who have quit their jobs just to flip watches, like they're flipping homes. And one of
Really?
the most highly resellable watches on the market is a Rolex. I don't know about you, but I've looked at quite a few Rolexes. They are some of the most ugly wristwatches I've ever seen in my life. I don't understand why these things call the amount of money that they call, but they're valuable to someone and they sell for a very good price. So when it comes to resale, beauty is not a factor here. It really is
No,
about
you're right.
what someone is willing to pay for it.
You're right. You're definitely right. But it's not the. Is it the second time he's done these? Right? This is the second.
Yes, he dropped some
Yeah.
Trump sneakers before, which had nothing to do with Bitcoin. And then he went to the Bitcoin 2024 conference, which took place just under a week ago in Nashville, Tennessee. And at that conference, he spoke. He made a lot of wild claims. I don't know why people believe politicians when they make the claims that they do, but apparently everyone was believing him. They were behind him. He went there. He had his speech. But yeah, these sneakers were released on the day of his speech at the Bitcoin 2024 conference. Sold out immediately, and now it's going crazy on the resale market.
Do we know what quantity or how many were?
I don't know
production?
the quantity that was made. That's
I'm intrigued.
something I probably should have looked into. I just know that they sold out almost immediately upon release.
The one thing I would say that I would give him credit for is I feel like this is a very good way of raising funds from people that you would not typically in a non-typical way. Like if you think about it, if he got that many people to buy, the sneaker at 250, that's like direct funds that are coming into him and his campaign, versus the like normal, which is like, we're gonna need you to help us beat this guy. Please,
Right,
send us
right,
money, right? So
right.
it is a very interesting approach, and it's an approach targeted clearly to a younger demographic that may not necessarily have been heavily into the voting, because I mean, who are the main consumers of sneakers like that, right? So it's not the people who you would say you would target in your typical plan. So I guess, from a marketing standpoint, I think it's a pretty smart play.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people forget is that before Trump, with this whole presidential run that he's on now and previous presidency, he was a mega billionaire mogul, and he's very charismatic. He always had high life around him, celebrities around him. He's got the Trump Towers. He knows how to market. This is one thing he knows how to do, and clearly he's using his strength in his bid for a second run at the presidency, I should say. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. And he does present himself in a certain way where, you could see him selling sneakers. I mean, he's aligning himself with all the rappers and everything like that. So it makes sense. Yeah, I tell you what, I'd be willing to buy a couple of Trump Bitcoin sneakers. If Kay Harris came out with some sneakers, I don't know. I'd probably pass on those. She doesn't have the same hipness, if I want to go with that as a word.
Damn.
You ever seen Trump dance? That boy gets down on the dance floor, man. He's a hip dude.
Let's cut
I'm
it
being
all the way out.
sarcastic. If you saw the dance, it was some kind of weird, like robotic thing he was doing. It was really weird.
One of those. One of those.
Yeah.
No, it is interesting. I think what we're seeing now actually is, had it not been for our next topic, well, one of our next topics, which I guess we'll get to, had it not been to the shakeup that happened with his opponent, the things that he's done here would have for sure guaranteed him a win, and a base that I don't think the other party was really planning for. So
yeah, the best decision the Democrats could have made was to throw their support behind Kamala, even though I know that jumps into one of our next topics. Because I think he would have eaten Biden alive. So I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, moving into the heavy political section, the first thing was the failed assassination on Donald Trump, and just how weird and ridiculous that also felt.
Were you one of the doubters? Because there were a lot of people who were saying that this was a publicity stunt. It's not real. Were you one of those people?
I was initially. Yes, I was.
Oh, you were. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Were you saying you had a different thought? You saying?
No, I always thought it was real. I never, because to me it's weird to think that someone would go as far as to not only have other people killed, but have themselves put in the line of fire where they could potentially be killed, and then the shooter is killed. It's just a little bit too much risk, and for something like that to be kept under wraps at such a high level, to me it seemed like there's no way that this could be that. And I'm also not one to dabble in conspiracy theories. I tend to stay away from those, because usually the alternate ideas that the conspiracy theorists have, it's so much more wild than the reality that it's like, okay, so I'm supposed to not believe this, that someone actually made an attempt against the president's life. As wild as that is, I need to remove that as a potential, as a real thing that's happening, and then believe this wild idea that this was a whole scam that was set up and it's to win the presidency. It just, the reality seemed more realistic than the conspiracy. So I never really believed that it was anything other than what it appeared to be, at least what we were told that it was, So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I am the opposite because I tend to dabble into conspiracies, but generally my conspiracy theories is ones I form on my own. I don't necessarily like, you know how people come up with theories and they run with it. No. I'm taking these facts and I'm, extrapolating whether or not this is a reality, and that's literally how I go about it. So
You brainstorm your own wild fallacies.
yeah, 100%. And I know anytime I say it, like, know that like I'm not saying, oh, this conspiracy theory is fact. I really believe it. It's just an alternate option for a conversation for no other reason. So
Is it for conversation, or do you believe what you start concocting in your head?
A lot of times it's for conversation.
Okay.
A lot of times it's conversation, and for no other reason than just being able to have that discourse. Because truthfully, having the idea that that attack was fake doesn't change anything, right? It doesn't change anything for me. Because what does it say? Okay, well, he'll do whatever to become president. I mean, he's already doing whatever to become president. That's literally so.
It's not a wild take. It's not a wild take to assume that he might do something like that.
Yeah. So, and I think any good conspiracy is based on just the little bit of truth that this could be real.
Right. And with him, he makes
anything is possible.
Right. He's been such a wild, because who would have believed it if you were to say, hey, the president lost the election and then told people go attack the Capitol? Like in another world, you would sit there and say, nah, that didn't happen.
No
but
way
that is the
hell.
reality. The
No
person that is he's in the pilot seat, the leader of the free world, who is supposed to protect freedoms, protect the people, look out for America, the one who has been standing behind justice, protecting the police despite whatever they did. This is the very same person that's like, nah, forget all of that. Get them. So, yeah.
I mean, he was telling him to hang his VP, bro. Like, there were no limits to what he's willing to do. And so you can understand why somebody would assume that you would put it together. But there's a couple things for me as a gun enthusiast myself. That was a hard shot. So to be able to take that shot and miss so closely had to be an actual, if you were doing that intentionally, you're by far the best shot in the world.
So you're saying that, hold on. So are you saying that you think that he intentionally missed, or you're saying that?
No.
Okay. Because wasn't it an AR-15 that he used?
Yes, correct.
And I don't know what the distance away that he was, but one of the things that I know you have to take into account when you're shooting with any gun and you're using that type of distance and you're dealing with the elements, you have to deal with things like wind resistance, bullet drop, things like that. So to be 20 years old and that much of a good shot, listen, I don't want to sit here and applaud a potential murderer, but I do have to applaud the skill level that he was able to acquire at such a young age.
But that's what I'm saying. For me, it's interesting that you could really sit there and have the theory that he did that. This was all done intentionally, because if he would have to be the best sniper ever to shoot this man and graze his ear.
An AR too. It's not even like a sniper. That's a gun with a ton of recoil. I mean, do they even know if there was a scope on the weapon?
I think there was a sight, but I don't know if there was a scope. But so, we could go all in depth on that. But it's like,
especially
it's not
with you being an enthusiast.
Yeah, it's not something that you could be really seriously considering it being fake. Right. I think that it did happen, and my other conspiracy theory is this dude, based on his search history, it sounded like he was searching famous people, right? So he was searching up famous people.
Lee Harvey.
I can argue this guy came from the future, bro. Like, he time traveled here, and we don't know the ripple effect of what he did and how it will affect the future. But because how do you not know? Like, first of all, how do you not find any of his search history before this? There's a natural buildup that you see with people who are willing to commit this level of violence, especially in this thing, right? There's a manifesto. They want to be remembered, blah, 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 blah. On all things about this guy is very clear past, right? He was a good, on all intents and purposes. I know people say that after people die all the time, though. But, like, on paper, he's not somebody you would peg as a shooter.
Right.
So, to have that happen, and then he just randomly searched a bunch of people and was so strategic in how he went about doing things, it's just, to me, my conspiracy that I've brought myself to believe is that he came from the future and I don't know, he had a job to do, and I don't know if he failed or he was successful. We don't know. But, time will tell. And someone's going to look at me and say I'm crazy. But
yeah, I'm thinking that he's not that strategic. I just think the Secret Service was just sloppy.
But but here's the thing. How is that? We didn't even talk about the Secret Service, the head of the Secret Service standing down, because like that was a big deal. That was a major blunder. But if you look at it, the Secret Service has a history of major blunders. Like, it's wild. Like, I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about the fact that somebody had shot up the White House when Obama was president.
Really?
And they didn't figure out that this person actually shot through the White House until the cleaning staff was cleaning up and saw like bullet fragments.
Wow.
And I'm like, we didn't even hear about that like that.
No.
But it's like, you had one job to do and you failed at it.
Yeah.
Like so tremendously that you didn't even know that it was something went wrong. So,
and I don't know if you happen to know this, but was it the same head of the Secret Service back then as it were when this whole Trump thing happened?
I don't think it was,
Okay.
but I do think it does speak to history of them being kind of sloppy at their job.
Right.
Which, it's a hard job. By all means, it's an incredibly hard job. You're responsible for the life of a growing amount of people. So I get that. I will never take away from that. But the fact that whoever was responsible for scoping out that rally also failed and is probably not being held responsible because the person at the head, she fell on her sword. But somebody messed up here. Somebody messed up big time.
They need to hire Chubbs.
For what?
I mean, your boy Drake is out here talking wild spicy, and he goes wherever he wants. No, have you ever heard of anyone laying a hand on Drake? They need to hire Chubbs.
Here's the thing: they only can have at any given point. Drake has maybe 10 people, or 10 different people coming at him. Right? There are a lot of people who could. First of all,
you're right.
If you were doing your research on all the potential people that could have attacked Trump, this guy would not have shown up.
And he's globally hated too. So we're talking about not just the United States. That's
a good point.
Yeah. So
that's a good point.
I
there's definitely a lot there. One of the things too, I feel like, to your point earlier about like them failing, I feel like this guy. This is another reason why I said he came from the future. He had way too much information for somebody who just scoped out a place once.
And he did look alien, so you might be right.
There's a lot of information he had. How did he know exactly which one? How did he know where they were going to set up? This is why it also leads into the conspiracy that it was done. Like, people are like, oh, the Democrats did it. I'm like, I guarantee you if that was the case, they would have hit him.
Oh, damn.
No, not saying that the Democrats are great, but if it was this big conspiracy, like if we look back at all of the assassinations that have happened in the past, they tend to be done with a level of expertise that makes you lean into thinking that there was a higher level of thought or plan happening here. Whereas this didn't feel like that.
Right. A little bit more sophistication. This was sloppy.
Correct.
Yeah, I get what
this
you're
was
saying.
definitely sloppy. But, we could go all on with that. Moving along, after that, we had the RNC and Trump choosing J.D. Vance as his VP, which is an interesting choice. I've heard some things, but I'll let you go first.
Well, I don't know too much about him. I've definitely heard some of the wild statements he's made, especially one in regards to abortion with people leaving their state and going to other states, and how he believes that that should be banned. I don't know too much about him. I know that one of the only things I've heard about him is that he is an avid supporter of cryptocurrency. But outside of that, I have not really paid much attention to this JD Vance individual. I know he's a lot younger. And what is he, like 39 years old?
Yeah.
A lot younger than any of the current nominees for president. So I'm surprised someone that is that young has such radical ideas. But I mean, he's with the radical party, so I shouldn't be that surprised. I'm just always shocked to hear some of the opinions that are given by people who were born at a certain time. You would think that their way of thinking has updated a little bit, but they actually, I don't know, I guess it comes from upbringing because those kinds of ideologies at such a young age just seems like something that would have been done away with.
But I think that's something, they talk about nature and nurture. I feel like a lot of the stuff gets nurtured. And if you're given this information at a time when, it's critical for you to, build your thoughts of the world, it's very easy for someone to fall in line with that. And that goes bigger into a bigger conversation about like my feelings about like the two-party system that we have in America, because people, they forge their identity based on where they end up on the aisle. And I'm like, that's wild, because there's more to life. There's a lot more to life, right? Like, it's like we could both have very strong views on politics and not agree on everything the same way, right? And we've been friends for over 10 years. And that's just life. But somehow we have accepted that this is how people operate, and this is the thing. So that's fun. The one hilarious thing I've seen about him, have you heard about the couch thing?
No. What is the couch thing?
So apparently, I don't know where it came from. I tried to do some research, but it's very unclear. But apparently they keep making jokes about him, saying that he's had sexual relations with a couch. It is so ridiculous. I don't know what it is.
Sexual relations with a couch.
With a couch, and some Beavis and Buttheads type thing. I just, it's just
what a throwback! Wow,
I know, right? I know.
Wow.
Going into nostalgia's bag there for that one.
Monkey
but
boy.
I don't know where this came from, but the sad thing about it is that the internet has just been rolling with it. Like I watch, you watch any nighttime TV, everyone's talking about it like it's a thing. So it was just very odd. And of all the things that we're hearing about him, the most unimportant part, but the hilarious. It just
that
really
is
funny.
Pretty funny. The only thing I would want to know is if he's one of those guys that is a little bit more sophisticated, or is he messing with those Bob Furniture couches, like the ratchet couches. But that's some craziness.
Laddering up the leather, bro. So
damn. And
anyhow,
I wonder if it's a pullout. It's crazy.
Oh, sheesh.
That's a sick
dude.
dude.
The fascinating thing about him, though, it's we're seeing a lot of responses from people finding out that his wife is not white, and I thought, and his kids
really?
are not white.
Where is she?
Yeah, she's Indian, of Indian descent. I don't know if she's actually. I don't know if she's. Yeah, she's of Indian descent. So
you know how I know I'm not normal? I know I'm not normal because you mentioned the whole couch thing, and then I realized in my background there's a couch, in your background there's a couch. So I wonder if JD Vance sees this videos, if he's gonna have be all bricked up, like, oh snap, who them in crowd boys? Bro, I need to get to that couch real quick.
That man can't. That listen, his tours at the IKEA, they gotta close down the whole spot, bro.
My man drives by a Raymond Flanagan and goes wild.
It's over, bro.
But that's interesting that his wife is actually a woman of color. She's that's interesting. I mean, hey, at least because I think that a lot of people associate the Republican Party with just racism, and it's not the case. So, I mean, that's cool.
I think that it was interesting to watch the people who had something negative to say about it, because it drew a clear line that their focus was only on race. because why does it matter what the
And
his
what
wife is?
exactly are you gonna say? Oh, he's with an Indian woman, and what's the next thing? What's after that? Who cares?
But anywho, shortly after that news, not the couch news, the JD Vance news.
That's synonymous.
Yeah, President Joe Biden pulled the super Hail Mary, which I have another conspiracy theory for that too. But you know what? We probably should start a section of this called K-Styles Conspiracy Theories, because then I get a space to talk about this, and everyone knows that I'm just being an ass. But it's
Conspiracies
cool.
with K-Styles. I like it.
Yo, we're gonna make that a section of Wrapped. But so President Biden stepped down after he said he wasn't gonna step down, and we talked about it in the last. We spoke about it in the last Wrapped.
Did he step down with a walker?
Did he step down at all? Did he have anyhow?
Yeah.
He his after his pretty terrible debate, he came out saying he wasn't gonna go away. He was gonna, and then one day they dropped an X, and he was out, and it was weird because it felt like he got pressured, and that's what people were saying, especially on the Republican side. It's like they were like, yeah, this is the Democrats are trying to subvert democracy, and I'm like, do we forget how quickly January 6th happened? Because that's pretty much what subverting goddamn democracy looks like. You're literally sending a mob of people to change the outcome. That's different than this, in my opinion, but I can understand where they're coming from, because they spent all their time preparing to beat Joe Biden.
Question for you. Do you think it would have been better for him to continue to campaign and potentially win the presidency, and then at that time say, you know what, I can't do this, step down and allow her
Absolutely
to step up? Or do you think what he did was the right move?
I think it was the right move. I think it should have happened earlier.
I agree.
I don't think it would have been fair to her, and honestly, it would have caused way more uproar had she not gone through this process and won. Because if she wins, at this point, she won. She
went into the trenches and did this. Yeah,
correct. As if she was given that role as a result of her duties being called up, it's different, and it would be unfair, I think, to her. And it would not be a good look for the Democratic Party if he just quit that way. Now, if he died or something like that, that's a different conversation. But I think if he quit, at that point it would have been bad. Now,
yeah,
my biggest concern is the timing is very short, and we've not really seen somebody switch something around like that in this time limit that we've. I mean, the DNC hasn't happened yet, so I'm intrigued to see what that looks like. But.
You don't think it's in the bag? I mean, she had Meg the Stallion twerking. You don't think it's in the bag for her? She had Quavo up there. It's in the bag.
Now, for the record, I do want to say, I'm just going to sound like a crazy stray that I'm sending out there. The way that Quavo spoke about the gun violence and how it affects the community and stuff like that is how you want to have someone talk about stuff. Compared to like a Meek Mills, who's a bumbling idiot, and he's the face of prison reform. This is like, if we're gonna call people up to talk, make sure they say in something that makes sense. And I give Quavo, Quavo. We never really hear Quavo talk about stuff, but I give that man his. I give him his. I salute him, because that was done in a way that he was more than just being an entertainer. To me, I appreciated that, but. I don't know. That just seems like a shot at Meek unnecessarily. But the Meek prison reform thing irritates me every time I hear about it. It's like, what do you do? Like, stop. Anyhow.
So what do you think about the fact that he went up there speaking on gun violence when his lyrics pretty much say the exact opposite?
The question, when Arnold Schwarzenegger ran for governor, and most of his movies are very violent. Yes, it wasn't a thing.
Yes, but I know that there's this whole push to say that rap lyrics are just like fantasy. But one of the things that we can be honest about here as actual hip hop fans is some of that stuff is not fantasy. It's real. They're talking about what they live, what they have lived, what they would do in certain situations. It's kind of a glorification. A movie is not really so much a glorification. It's literally a script that someone wrote and a role that I either went out and auditioned for or I was given because they already saw me as the person fulfilling that role. I am literally just an actor here. I don't know if I could draw the same distinction as the same, unless we're talking about certain types of musical artists, like a Drake, for instance. Clearly, everything with him is fantasy. There's no
Well,
reality. So,
but the truth, and this is a deeper conversation. Probably should be not to cut you off, but the deeper thing that we're going into here is that uh, we're talking about impact, right? And the fact that the influence that these people have tend to, make an impact on whoever's consuming it. So by that token, you say, well, we have all made a distinction that movies and actors, because they do so many different things, is a separate thing.
right.
But to quote Jay-Z, Scarface the movie did more for me than Scarface the rapper, right? Like, and if you think about that movie and what it meant for people in that time period, should we not hold it by the same, to the same judge or the same stick for measurement? So I get it. And yes, I do think from a music standpoint, there is a glorification of some of that life. And very often the people in that life are connected in some way to the criminal things that they sing about, but it also doesn't mean that they can't also speak about it in a different way. Because it's also, I mean, he lost his nephew. Like that's something that we don't know what it's gonna do for his music. Now, if he came back out there like red rum, is that like
That's the point I'm making. After you go up
so?
there and you speak on something like this, what does your music become? Because your music is somewhat of a glorification of gun violence. So I would be interested to hear what type of music he puts out going forward, because you can't show up at the stage speaking like that and then your next couple of hits are talking about gunning down black guys. So that's all
But
I'm
but for the record, do we feel like Migos music was heavily into like murder, guns, like?
It's not as street as some of the most street artists out there, but there's some of that in there. But they're more like popping that stuff and talking about the baddies and the lifestyle and the money and flexing and cars and So you're right.
Yeah.
It's more along that line.
Yeah,
But
that's the one thing. If this
yeah,
was like, if it was Griselda, and like they go ham with yeah, I would, it would be a different conversation. But
or someone
or
like
even
a Dirk.
yeah, so it's different. But I mean, the interesting thing about having these people up in there is like, I don't know how to say this and not come off wrong, but do we think that's enough to get the vote? Like, is Megan Thee Stallion enough to get my vote? First, I
It's
like
not
Meg.
enough to get
I
my vote.
I feel like I have shown you multiple times. I have multiple conversations. I've actually had to defend Meg in our back and ones. So by no means am I taking anything away from Meg, but like, is that really what we're doing now? To like,
If I'm being honest, it's a little bit, it's a little weird. It's a little insulting, but I do understand that now politics has turned into a popularity contest. And if you have popular artists, like you have a Beyonce song as your theme, and you've got a Meg Thee Stallion twerking, and you've got Quavo speaking on gun violence, this is supposed to now bring in the younger audience who typically would not pay attention to politics. The only problem is with me in terms of that is, okay, you have the young audience, but they don't care about the issues. They just care that, oh, Meg Thee Stallion supports Kamala, I support Kamala. And I don't know if that's the direction that you should be taking your whole candidacy into. It should be
I mean,
more about educating the youth. So I would prefer to see something like a Meg Thee Stallion there, but She's very much educated on what the policies are, what I stand for, what I'm going to be bringing to the forefront. And I need you to take that message and in your own way, deliver that to the younger audience so that they know when they come out on voting day why they're voting, instead of her performing whatever song she's performing and twerking. I think it doesn't look good, but I guess this is what our politicians have come up with in their limited ability to think about how to draw in a younger audience.
But it's honestly, if you think about it, it's the first year Obama playbook when they were doing Rock the Vote and they had Jay-Z and all these people. It's
Diddy.
no different. It's no different. It's just that the next generation of people are different people. Like that's,
yeah, but I didn't agree with that either, though.
Yeah,
I'm not into that. I listen. If you're gonna be into politics, I think you have to be in there for the right reasons, not because your most liked artist happens to say, "Hey, go out and vote." Okay, why?
But the thing about it is, and this is a larger conversation, but the thing about it is, we're not, like you said, it's a popularity contest. It's not about who has the best, the best policies, who's doing what for anything. It's like the one other thing that's upsetting there in that case too is that we are used, we as hip hop is used every time you want to move the I would say the black voting block, right? Like we're considered a voting block, right? Because that's how they talk about it.
Treated
And unfortunately,
like
and the thing that's upsetting the most there is that we're treated that way every time it's an election cycle, and then after that we're gone. After that you no longer have hot sauce in your bag, right? Like
remember, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
And so one of the things that I think that is interesting, and honestly, there's a larger conversation about what we should do once they get into office, and that's the question to ask. Once, okay, Kamala, sorry, we've been saying her name wrong. Kamala, once she gets into Miss Harris, once she gets into to office, what do you need to do for us? Because the Heritage Foundation has decided exactly what they want to do for the next 4 years, right? Like they have a full plan. They made it public. They've set up things to make it a case. What does we as the block that they want to address by bringing out these entertainers, what do we require from them? And that's really, to your point, that's where we are actually in a different demographic than the people who consume Sexy Red's music on the regular, because they don't care, right? They don't care. We honestly think about it, until it started affecting our actual income, we didn't really care.
Right.
Right.
When you become an adult and you pay taxes, that's when it's like, oh crap.
It's time. Like, what's going on? You play with my money right now. And I think that our responsibility now needs to be, okay, cool. Well, we will help this happen, because honestly, I'll be real with you, the Trump presidency doesn't fill me with the greatest confidence for the next 4 years. And I say this bigger than the political and all of that. My biggest concern is some of the stuff he said. He said, Christians, get out and vote. Get out and vote. You want to have to do it again in 4 years. That concerns me. It's giving Kim Jong-un. I don't like that idea. Like one of the things that I, as an American, as someone who has came here, did what I had to do to become a citizen, the idea of my civic duty has been something that I live by. I'm the type of guy that's very happy about jury duty that I've not gotten. Where's my jury duty?
Wow.
I want to do it. I want to do it, right? That's my civic duty.
I agree with you.
But at the same time, I don't want to get to a point where we're dealing with a dictatorial thing, because what happens is, yes, you get into office, and then things start changing dramatically. We already see what the Supreme Court looks like, right? They have changed completely to agree pretty much with whatever Trump wants. We've lost a checks and balance, some of the checks and balances there. And the rate of America, that's supposed to make America, the great country that it is that we have a system that has checks and balances. So if you remove these checks and balances, it's like if you remove the limiter on your car, you could drive your car to 200 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. Is that good? No. Is that good for everybody else?
No, not at all.
So I understand that they want, like the idea is getting rid of the deep state and all that fun stuff. And it's so fascinating to hear that because it sounds like a lot of conspiracy and maybe it's real, but the level of conspiracy that people are believing and actually implementing laws around is wild to me. Like it's super wild to me.
Yeah.
But I say all that to say, I am intrigued to see how this goes because this is the first time we're seeing a lot of firsts again. And so I think that it's going to be interesting. We did do a kind of immediate response called Wrapped Highlights where we talked about Biden stepping down and should we say electric sliding? Because I know he doesn't do well with steps. Sorry, that was unnecessary. I could
pulled in like he did on that bike that time.
Somebody's like, "You're mean to this old guy," but like it is what it is. But we did a little clip there, and we'll play a couple minutes of it here. But and then come back with some of the comments because the comments to me were the wildest part. So we'll be back. I do think there is something to be said that everybody would automatically say that like Kamala is the next one, but it makes sense. She technically was on the ticket anyway. But I do think with the whole DNC about to happen, it'd be interesting to see if there's anybody else because it doesn't look like there was a plan for this in the first place, which is just crazy to me. But
yeah, and I wouldn't take anything that Mitch McConnell says to heart or even give it any kind of credence because, like you said, the guy is the equivalent of trying to run a modern day PC on 4 megs of RAM. He really should just shut up, like be quiet.
But so yeah, that was fun. We'll definitely try to do some more of those where we get live reactions and then let the comments be the dictating factor for what we talk about. So some of the comments we saw from this, is very fascinating. So the first one was, she's just another pawn in their game. It's obvious. Obviously doesn't matter who they stick in the slot. That sounds wild. She's horrible and certainly no leader. Vote for Trump to save America. Which is wild to me.
Save America. This is the same man that wanted to take down the Capitol.
It's weird. It's weird how it works once it's your guy, which is once again my issue with this new like ideal of in the Republican Party. Like, say what you want about the Mitt Romneys and the dude who's the guy that went after Obama.
Was it McCain?
McCain. Say what you want about these guys, but these guys, they were a little bit more upstanding guys, right? Like there were people. McCain. I remember McCain correcting somebody when they were talking bad about Obama, and I'm like, you know what? They don't agree. But it seemed at that point that our politics were based on some level of civility.
There was more united in the United States. Now it just seems like we're completely ununited.
Completely.
It's them versus us. It's red versus blue, like that's all that it is now.
And another comment was vote for Kamala. Jesus, we need to figure this out before the next election.
Seriously.
Sheesh.
We gotta do better.
Yeah, it's good for equity, but you might as well stay with Biden. Both are useless. That comment, I'm not gonna lie, that comment threw me for a loop because it sounded like they were suggesting it, but then it was like they hit you with like a little rope of dope afterwards. I'm very confused.
Yeah, no matter where you go, useless, both of them.
Yeah. So we also see how is she eligible to be president? Neither of her parents were citizens. That to me is wild.
Listen, not everyone researches before they start making comments. They just want to drop the comment and keep it pushing. So
that is one of the most negative things about the internet, alongside the fact that people only see snippets of things, which leads into the other comment. They see snippets of things and then make whole comments about a person, right?
Full ideas formed.
With a 30-second clip. That's just wild to me. 30 seconds is probably too long. So the next one, which I'm going to try to not use expletives, even though, I'll try. This is why we as a people continue to lose. Instead of rallying behind her, you MFs want to downplay her.
That's funny.
You don't see anyone on the other side downplaying Trump. They're sticking together. So
I'm guessing this person's never been on the internet, because when they say the other side, I'm assuming they're talking about people that are white.
I think they're talking about Democrats versus Republican.
Okay.
That's my thought. But once again, we go back to the monolithic experience of black people, where I'm supposed to be on one side or the other. And the crazy thing about that, and why I wanted to set it up with the clip thing, is in the video we both said we're gonna be voting for her. We both said it. Like, we said it clearly, but because that clip had something where we had questions, legitimate questions. Because the question was, is this automatically a win for Trump? Because we have not seen this unprecedented, we've tied to unprecedented times. Literally, we have someone switching out the nominee in an election year. When has that been? So is that not a legitimate question to have? Am I not entitled to having my opinion because I need to just rally behind her? Matter of fact, for the record, Obama and Michelle didn't rally behind her immediately either. Nancy Pelosi didn't rally behind her either. So, like, why do they, as the people who have way more information than me, get the opportunity? Yeah, way more influence, get the opportunity to at least question or hold off, right? No, you gotta be the first to it. And that's the problem. That I'm gonna get on my soapbox. That's the problem with the internet, is everybody feels like you need to be the first. No, sometimes it's okay to be second if you're right. I was like, I remember Denzel said something. Oh, Denzel Washington. Got to say everybody's name right now. Denzel. He said, people as journalists, the game has switched to everybody being first, not having integrity. And I'm butchering it. That's not what he says, but essentially that's what it is. We want to be first. And to this guy, I wish I didn't copy his name, and we probably should have done that, but my question to you is, why do I not have the opportunity to ask the questions about somebody who's going to be my leader?
And that's the thing. That's the thing that that I'm kind of saying, is that we need people who are a bit more researched, who are willing to do the homework and then make their decision, rather than just like, oh, I'm voting blue no matter
what.
Like whatever they're saying is, like, I don't subscribe by those terms. If I personally believe that you're the best candidate that reflects the ideas that I personally stand behind, that's who I'm going to vote for, and vice versa. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Even though I am registered as a specific party, I'm not going to reveal that, but I'm going to vote for who I feel is the best candidate, not just because it's blue. Like, what kind of foolishness is that?
And at the core of this is what my problem is. It's like, you are making a determination based on what's good for you. And that is your right as an American citizen. I have the right to make a determination. And that's why the Biden thing was very upsetting. If you're not voting for me, then you're not black. Like, sir, let's stop. Because you're not in any position to tell me what I should and shouldn't do based on my race, regardless of your race.
Right.
You're in no position to tell me what I'm a person of, I think, pretty sane mind, right? Like, I can, ride a bike and not fall, right? So don't tell me what to do. But
different lived experiences. That's what's going to make the determination.
So yeah, I just thought it was very interesting. And as I said, we're going to try to do more of those, because it was fascinating to watch the instant responses, and it was just our literal immediate take. And truthfully, this is all for entertainment, man. We're here to, of course, talk about the things, and we get to be
CNN.
Yeah, and even CNN didn't have a good handle on this. They didn't know what the hell they were talking about. No one did, because we have never experienced this before. We've not experienced this. I mean, we've had people change. We've had presidents and VPs take up the thing, but not like this, and not before an election, not election time like that.
Yeah.
But to my conspiracy though, my wonder is if they knew that by switching out Kamala at this point guaranteed people to be engaged way more when it comes to election time, is why they held on so long to switching her out. Now, there's no facts for that, right? Because
Right.
theoretically, for all of this, they said, for all intents and purposes, we assumed Biden was going to be our guy. We saw the debate, and we're like, whew, we don't know. But what if that
Exactly.
was all a plan to put together because he was not doing that well in the polls? On top of that, too, after that, we saw a couple times where he had some fiery comments, and I'm like, dang, like, where was this during the debate, right? Like, I don't know. The conspiracy theory is that this was a long-term game plan for them, but that also means that that leans heavily to the potential of there actually being a deep state, and that they're actually doing a lot of this stuff to manipulate people in the front of our eyes. And though I would love to give people credit, it would make a wonderful, wonderful movie. I don't think that anybody was that well planned out for this.
Yeah,
I think
I
this was
agree.
a knee-jerk reaction to seeing this guy not being able to relate or potentially win.
He fell on his face, and they made a decision.
So, that's my one conspiracy with that. I just, I like to throw those out there because it's fascinating. It's not a real thing. I know it's not a real thing. And if it is a real thing, God dang it, I was right. And I'm going to tell you. But
Time will tell.
yeah, time will tell. The last thing was, on the political side, was Trump going to Chicago for the National Association of Black Journalists conference and speaking there, which kudos to that man because I'm surprised he went there, but he also complained that he only went because he thought his counterpart was there and that he couldn't be there. He couldn't join on Zoom. He did what Trump does all the time, and he was a lot of unnecessary shots at things that were not important. But they did come out with some like questions at the beginning. And I was like, damn, they were ready for him. It's like, you talking crap? We gonna see you, right? Like it was one of those moments, and they
Yeah.
had him set up. But I think they did a very good job at that conference of balancing the different type of people because there was a clear Democrat, a clear Republican, and then there was a person in the middle, which I'm assuming is like an independent, and they were all dressed in colors that matched that. So, for all intents and purposes, I thought it was put together very well. But like, I mean, we got a lot of what we expect from Trump, which is just like I call it the Trump dancing, where he's just
He did a little
around
bit
the
of this.
subject. Yeah, you got the little.
Yeah, and I
So-
didn't watch it, so kudos to you for being able to watch that because
Hey.
I can't listen to homie ramble on, for an hour.
The weird thing is, even with all of that, I don't listen to much of his rallies. This is probably one of the more coherent conversations I've heard with him.
Okay.
Even though it did have some unhinged moments, but like, it's weird, and I don't know if because I just gotten so used to the craziness that's Biden, because Biden was kind of all over the place, that it's like Trump seems like a little bit more concise, but still in. Either that or I've gotten used to Trump and the way that he talks, so that's just like, oh, yeah, I guess it's not that bad.
Right.
Either way,
right.
all of these things are leading up to this thought process, so it doesn't necessarily mean that he was great. It is what it is. So
Yeah.
we're finally done with politics. And we're almost done. So going on to entertainment news. So apparently your boy Drake, because he's your boy.
My boy. Wow. I'm very interested by
boy.
that statement. Wow.
Your
Okay.
boy. No, but apparently Drake was out here getting Schoolboy Q and Sir's concert canceled in Canada. I'm pronouncing everything else wrong, so I might as well pronounce this wrong too.
Right. I mean, I don't think there was any direct. How can I put this? There was no direct way of confirming that it came from Drake's camp. There are some theories out there that basically the police in Canada are trying to eliminate the possibility of violence because when your boy Ricky Rose went over there, they put hands on him, and I guess they're saying that, hey, in order to prevent any further violence, these artists, they can't perform here. But I could somewhat understand that with Schoolboy Q because yes, he's TDE just like Sir is, but Sir was not a part of anything in terms of that beef. Even though Schoolboy Q showed up at the Pop Out concert and he was in the Not Like Us video, So if you want to use that, I could somewhat understand that. But Sir was not at the pop out in terms of performing, nor was he in the video from what I remember. So it just seems to me like the petty king is being a petty and sore loser if he has anything to do with this, and he's using his power to say, "Hey, I lost the beef, but I'm gonna win the war and prevent you guys from performing in Canada." But the only loser in all of this, I mean, don't get me wrong,
Fans.
the artists themselves, I believe they still do collect some part of the proceeds, even if the concert gets canceled. The real loser is the fans. So basically, Drake is, if he does have hands in this, all he's doing is allowing his pettiness to prevent the people in Canada from being able to enjoy other artists. That's
Yep.
weird. That's weird, but you know,
Also, it's also pretty detrimental because if you start blocking people and then people say, "Hey, I'm not
they're
gonna
just
perform
taking
in
Canada off
anymore."
the tour, and then that starts
Yes.
having a cascading effect. What if Metro starts to do that? What if Future does that? You know, all these different people that quote unquote were beefing with him. What if they all say, you know what? Canada is a no-fly zone. We're not going there. We'll perform in the U.S. We'll perform in Africa. We'll perform in Europe. We'll go all over the world. Asia, everyone can touch our music. Canada is off hands. How does that make him look now? He's supposedly this big thing to Canada, and all you're doing is preventing
Yeah.
people from being able to enjoy other forms of music. That's weird. But we don't have anything confirming that he did ban
He
them.
actually did that. Yeah.
It's just weird to me that it's only certain select artists that are in some way tied to Kendrick. Odd.
Yeah. It is very interesting. I did see that DJ Scheme, I think his name is. Mm-hmm. He
He played
also
Not Like Us in the club that
Not Like Us. Yeah.
that Schoolboy Q was supposed to perform in.
I thought
And they
that
were
was,
singing
that was,
along with it in Toronto. So the very
because
same
it's,
people,
it's the biggest song of the year.
right? So the very same people that he was going out of his way to prevent from performing, like his own countrymen are out there singing, singing the song lyric for lyric.
The problem is that we want to sit there and think that, like, like I know we have this maybe different view of Canada based on the fact that, like, we do things slightly differently here. I know he has maybe a lot of influence in Canada because he's one of the biggest artists, but does he have that kind of influence to really stop it? And would they stop?
He does.
Would they allow him?
He does have that kind of dude. Nicki Minaj's husband has whatever he has going on in terms of just legal issues. And my understanding is that he could not go to Canada. She made a call to Drake. Her husband was allowed in Canada.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
he's got pull on so many different levels that he can even allow people who are not allowed to be there to come there, So,
But then the question is it beneficial for them to do that? Because then once you have now started blocking people, what happens to that scene? And I'm assuming there's money connected to anytime you have people come into these.
Right.
What happens when you now remove that?
right. That's
So-
because that's money for the city, that's money for the
Correct.
club, that's jobs for the people who work at these clubs, and
Correct.
yeah, I mean, it's weird. We'll see how this develops. Who knows? Maybe it's just a temp thing, and this all will blow over by the end of the year, and things
Yeah.
will return to normal. But I think that's super weird. And in my personal opinion, any artist that would have ever beefed with him, I just ignore him. That's the one thing. It's like the beefing occurs because of how relevant you are. If you were irrelevant, no one's beefing with you because you don't matter.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, regardless of how you look at this, they created one of the biggest moments in hip hop history, period. They made hip hop exciting again. Yeah. Why take that away from the fans? But whatever.
Yeah. I honestly, I think we said this in our group chat too. I'm kind of tired of
It's over.
all of
Yeah,
this.
it's a wrap.
I
It's
mean,
a wrap.
for the record though, I still listen to like Not Like Us at least 2 times a week. But just gotta keep that going,
Just
Kendrick,
keep listening to the music, and
Yeah.
I agree with you. 616 in LA still gets bumped by me. Euphoria still gets bumped.
Yeah.
Not Like Us, not so much, but I do like some of the music that came out of this.
Yeah, the Push-Ups joint actually wasn't bad. There was another record I was listening to that was like pretty dope from that. I'm like, yeah, this is not bad, but like that's it. That's like I don't want to hear anything else about it.
Just the music.
I don't want to hear anything from that. But
Yeah.
in conclusion, and I feel like we definitely skipped a couple things, but in conclusion, because in interest of time, uh, we saw Marvel do some very interesting thing recently, which was after having Iron Man go out, so Robert Downey Jr.'s character go out, they have him come back as Doom, and that was interesting. Like as Doctor Doom, I get it. Like he has been the face of the franchise for such a long time. Having him come back is great. Like I'm happy because I feel like Marvel has lost its direction, but it also feels like we've seen this story already. Like you're just gonna pull a fast one on him. Like we're always gonna see Iron Man, but I mean I guess it's up to him to make that character real. But like no one thought he would be Iron Man in the first place. Like he would be a good Iron Man. So I have all faith that he's gonna do. I saw this man play a black man. I wasn't offended. So
Yeah, this is true.
he I think he's a phenomenal actor. The question is this gonna do well for Marvel? I don't know. Time will tell.
Only time will tell. I will never watch the movie, but I do know this as someone.
Never?
Nah, I'm not. I'm out, bro. But I do know this in terms of my knowledge of Doctor Doom from the comics, as well as from seeing certain animated series with him in there. I don't think Doctor Doom ever takes his mask off. So we're only going to get his voice unless for some reason they're going to try to humanize Doctor Doom and actually have him without his suit on. We'll find out, but I can't ever recall seeing Doctor Doom without his mask. So that'll be interesting.
It'd definitely be interesting. I did see that they had some clip TMZ ran up on Jonathan Majors, and I guess he was a little butthurt about not getting his opportunity. But like they said it, bro. If you were found guilty, you weren't. It was a thing. Now, someone said it's very interesting because Robert Downey Jr. also had a troubled past when it comes to like, his own issues, but it didn't happen at the same time. And it also didn't happen.
He had his time. He did his time. In terms of, listen, from my understanding with the stuff that he did, I remember there was one point where he broke into someone's house and went to sleep and all of this stuff. All of his stuff was drug related from what I remember. I don't ever recall any of the issues that Robert Downey Jr. had being domestic violence or just violence in any way. So, and again, we might have short-term memory, but there was quite a time when Hollywood was not messing with Robert Downey.
Yes.
His return was truly that movie you mentioned, which I believe was Tropic Thunder. And then Iron Man. That's kind of where it was like you saw the industry welcome him back in. So Jonathan Majors kind of just has to go work the underground circuit. And who knows, in 5 years, he might be able to rekindle his career. But right now, it's still too new, so he's going to have to just accept what comes with the territory.
And honestly, I hear, like, I get it. I understand it's disappointing. You were supposed to be, like, the biggest thing, and so them having to pivot. Honestly, it also doesn't mean that it's impossible for you to come back. So, like, I wouldn't be talking about it at all. I'd be like, hey, listen. Hey, they said they want to
move on.
Yeah, they made their decision. I support it because, honestly, they can double back. We do have a short memory. And if they double back, it would be fine to do it because you just bring Kong back in and we're good to go. So I wouldn't be talking about it at all if I was in Jonathan Majors' thing other than positive thing. I understand you might be a little butthurt at the moment, but like they said what it is. And in this day and age, Disney and Marvel can afford to sidestep or take a step back on when it comes to this stuff. People will ream them. So we're just in a very sensitive time. And even though you were found not guilty, it is what it is.
Just give it time.
And actually, one last bonus thing that I forgot because we're talking about, legal troubles is Tory Lanez' his security guard, finally, giving a statement, which is kind of odd that they didn't include that before. I thought that was interesting because now it's showing up in the appeal. But I don't know if his affidavit or whatever he gave has enough information to change the outcome of that for Tory. I think he's still kind of screwed. It was interesting to have another point, but like that would have been easier to make that case during the. This is two cases where things like, were not handled well by the lawyers, in my personal opinion.
Agreed. I have not been paying too much attention to that. Tory did release the lost tapes, and he said that he's going to be putting out music from prison. From what I've heard on the lost tapes, I'm liking it. He's
really?
He's one of my favorite artists. So him having to sit down definitely affects me because I think he makes excellent music. So I'm looking forward to hear what he does from prison in terms of rapping over the jail phone. But the lost tapes are dope, so I'm enjoying that. Not really paying too much attention to what's going on with the legal matters.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how this goes. I mean, honestly, the way that the one thing it did introduce for me was a space where he was very adamant that he was not guilty, and it was like, is it just what people do, or was he actually not guilty? And honestly, I felt like after we heard more of this, I'm like, oh, I can understand why this is potentially, why he felt that way. So, yeah, I mean that's kind of the only thing. I don't have any other any surprise things. I think we have a lot to look forward to in August about the Olympics. So I guess we'll talk a little bit about that at some point.
Yes.
The Olympics are in full swing. So if you made it this far, we appreciate you. Thank you.
We do.
We'll be back next month with another episode. If you haven't already, go ahead and give us a like, subscribe, all that fun stuff that people are obligated to saying at the end of clips. But definitely join our Discord. Try to have more of these conversations live, and maybe we might pull you into in the conversation as well. So,
facts.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you. Peace.